Wait, is that shorter race? Wait a minute. Was that shorter race? What? Okay. Well, so basically, this team comp that TiP has right now, its win conditions are extremely similar to Cloud9's last game. Where either Gangplank backs up Nocturne or Nocturne backs up Gangplank. It's sort of the same exact thing. Although it's not as controlling as Twisted Fate, the element is still the same. Although the wave clear for TiP without either one of those is relatively weak. Lysandra does have okay wave clear, but it's not super powerful. But then again, they're facing another team that doesn't have any wave clear at all. So that's, not the worst. In terms of win conditions, it's sort of... this is actually very identical. CLG's team comp basically has the same exact issues that TSM's had. And it's going to win through the same exact way. So that's fine. Also, I need to eat after this game, so I'm not sure if I will be doing Echo Fox versus Team Liquid. Because I need to go and get food. I'm very, very, very hungry. CLG needs to get ahead and then not take coin flips. They do have a little bit more poke inside. I mean, even though the win conditions are very similar, CLG does have another gear that TSM's comp didn't have, which is poke. One thing that they, a gear that they're missing that, TSM's comp had was, like a very flexible engage or disengage. Whereas CLG's comp is just more so, reliant on LeBlanc's ability to wither the enemy team and get, to relative safety, or just for Xsmithy to poke people down to enable LeBlanc to just one-shot. And because there's no Soraka component, there's not going to be any brokenness or disgusting amounts of heal coming out of TiP's comp. And now is Poppy and Braum going to end up killing the Wraiths? It looks like that's what's happening. Now it looks like... See, CLG is very... Usually they take their level 1s and level 2s very, very serious. So this opening is okay, but we already established that generally, for the most part, it ends up benefiting whoever's on red side. However, in this case, because Nidalee basically did a full clear of her own, east side jungle, it's not like TiP is going to have any option to do any sort of counter jungle. I mean, I wouldn't even argue that the Golem is necessarily a counter jungle because I don't think that it's inside of Xsmithy's route. Blanc's really interesting. She definitely benefits from a knife fight situation. Much more than Lysandra does. And now they give the kill to Gangplank. Or they give the tower gold to Gangplank. I actually don't know if the assist means that it's split. Maybe I'm stupid right now. But I think that they just gave the tower gold to Gangplank. And now they're giving the tower gold to Poppy. Okay. That was really nice by Darshan to just let the tower kill as much as it could. I think he could have let the tower even kill that minion, but it would have ultimately just been a waste. And now Lucian's coming up. And Poppy just wards and then stays inside of the lane. And I guess that's just a mirror to what Gangplank's doing. And I think this is fine, because now Poppy is going to be able to conserve teleport, and now with TiP reinitiating a lane swap, I think that it's not very good for them, because Nocturne has no use on the left-hand side, and now it's all too easy for LeBlanc to just play safe against the west-hand side. Although, if we were talking about advancing metas and things that could end up getting advanced in, coming weeks, I do think that TiP does have some outs to the Rift Herald with Alistar. I think Alistar and Nocturne could actually kill the Rift Herald relatively quick, and then you could just hand it off to, you could probably just hand it actually off to Lucian. You could have him run down for a second and pick it up, and then you can just blitz through that tower, and then if you blitz through the tower, you're most likely going to end up killing it, or raising it faster than the opposing bot lane, although I don't know if during that time they would make any sort of attempt at Dragon. I'm very doubtful that they would, but nonetheless. Oh my god, please tell me I'm recording. Okay, I am. Okay. It's going to take the tower. I don't know who they're going to give it to. They're going to give it to anyone, or they're going to share it? Looks like they're sharing it this time. That's fine. Now, Poppy having tier 2 boots after having such an accelerated early into mid game is interesting. I'm not quite sure why that's the case. Maybe it's because she's afraid of Nocturne, but that doesn't make too much sense. After seeing how low... After seeing how low Nocturne just got, I'm unsure actually if he could have killed with just Alistar, so maybe that would have actually been a poor choice. Maybe Nocturne needed, or maybe they needed to actually rotate down Lucian if they wanted to do that. But again, that's something that's very thin, and I'm not quite sure, like, specifically about how that combo would end up killing it. Maybe if it was a different support that could deal more damage, it would be fine, but maybe not Alistar. Aphromu's just coming in, getting into some deep wards. I think this is fine. I think Alistar should not actually head down to bot lane. I think Lucian's relatively safe where he is. I think that Alistar just needs to provide him like a ward in the river brush, or like the tri brush, which is what he's doing. And then he'll be completely safe, and Lucian's free to just hold that down. And now that that Aphromu and Smithy are up here, he's even more safe to actually just go forward and keep shoving. Then Alistar can come in and get deep wards on red. It's very cookie cutter standard rotations. And now Alistar can look for a gank on mid lane with Elise is level 6. Sadly, though, Nocturne's not level 6. That's pretty bad. And this is interesting that Mash has Herald buff, so he's able to just really, really hurt this tower. So this is pretty interesting. So basically, he's able to do something right now that he shouldn't be able to, which is match Corki in top. And you have the call again. So this is actually pretty interesting that... I wasn't paying attention to when he got it. It seems like he picked it up at some point. So it's really nice to see the call stuff starting to come to fruition. And now, honestly, I think you just trade. I think you trade inhibitors, and the reason that I say that I think that you trade inhibitors is because top lane is not totally relevant to CLG's comp, because it's much more suffocated for their split push. So I think if you could have traded inhibitor turrets, I think that would have been actually a lot better. Also because you have 2 teleports. So if they did eventually get onto the inhibitor, I think there's a... see, I would have to rewind because now I can't remember every single situation. That sucks that teleport had to be blown just to protect him. Looks like Hui's coming here, and now Lys, and Hui... okay, this is just really bizarre why these fights are being allowed to happen. 6A ended up picking up the kill on Lissandra. I think the teleport was more than enough. I think the teleport could have been cancelled, so I think that it's a pretty big error by TiP to commit to that teleport. I don't really know who called that or who was in charge of that teleport, but this was pretty sad that that just got called. Obviously, Poppy had turned away and Gangplank would have made it out. So trading teleport there to basically save Gangplank was, I think, more than enough. But then they got really greedy and they were looking for kills, and I guess they overestimated their ability to kill Hui. So, not very good. That was really bad, yeah. So now after CLG secures this, I think Poppy just needs to lock bot lane, and they need to Glacier it, and then when they Glacier it, it should synergize up with the Herald coming up, and so because of that, it creates 2 locations where TiP needs to actually respond to something, but they can't. If they go to bot lane, then they give up Herald. If they don't go to bot lane, then they end up just losing a lot of gold, and it's basically a neutral congestion over Herald. Okay. Well, that was, alright. I mean, I guess he's almost dealing true damage on Lucian, right? Like, Lucian must have, what, like 30 MR or something? I don't know if MASH is bad enough to run MR, on Blues. Obviously, I know that there's other 80 carries that are world-class caliber that run MR, but it's bad. You don't need to run MR on Blues. You just run attack speed. You run attack speed, or you run mono regen, depending on who you are, or you run like some sort of like CDR, but you don't run MR. That's just bad. Now 6 day, or not 6 day. Now they just need to siege this mid turret and end up getting it if they can. That's just a fake claw. They didn't need to actually be worried about that because Lissandra could never take it. Oh my god. Now they just need to wait. I honestly just think it's a waiting game right now. Let LeBlanc complete her next item and let Poppy complete the next item. Only take bites if TiP is going to try to dive into you, because you have the mid-tier 1 turret, which you can easily just defend at. And then if they try to go for any sort of Rift Heralds, you want to just match them. Poppy can just keep pushing out bottom, but it would have been more ideal to just let it lock. But I don't think, maybe, I mean, I can't see the minions, so maybe it was impossible to lock. That's always a possibility. Okay, now CLG is going to get the Herald, and I think you give it to 6A. Is there something I don't know about the Herald on junglers? Does it do something for junglers? Because I don't understand why you would... now you see Corki is immediately moving to mid lane, so why does Corki not have it? Is there something I don't know? I don't get it. You don't need to be giving a jungler. Some people in the chat are saying that it gives 40 base MS, but it's irrelevant for Nidalee to have any MS right now. It would have been much, much, much more valuable to have it on Corki right there. You would have been able to push the mid turret. You would have been able to demand, other people from TiP to come mid, and then you can just rotate accordingly. Nidalee having it is completely irrelevant. Huge fight going on right now. If TiP takes this fight, and if they lose it, they lose the game, because it means that, okay, well, it does look like they are gonna lose. Oh no! All right, Lysandra made it out. Okay, never mind. Xsmithy ends up cleaning it up. It does look like it's gonna be all over. Is that an ace? No, Hui couldn't get onto Lysandra. When you take a fight like that, and when you have enhanced minions, I'm not gonna call them Baron minions, or maybe they are Baron minions. Are they actually identical to Baron minions? When you have enhanced minions knocking on your door, if you voluntarily choose to take a fight that can go either way and you lose it, that's a really poor decision. I think it would be a much wiser call to just give up that tower and, you know, look to fight another day. I mean, if you win that fight, it can be somewhat good for you because it enables you to regain control over your mid and your bot lane. It enables you to probably get Dragon too. But I don't think that regaining lane control in terms of like minions is something that you should be literally potentially throwing the game over. I don't think that that's a high enough risk reward, you know, relative to what could end up happening. Okay. All right. So yeah. Anyways, you can see inside of this fight, it's basically an overcommittance by TiP. They willingly stay. I mean, you can argue that CLG pounced on them, but there were ways out of there. You could have easily gotten out, and there was definitely ways for like Gate to live. There was ways for Gangplank to live. That fight didn't have to go as poorly as it did, but they just overstayed. And now I think if you're CLG, basically you just neglect bot lane because, again, it's not a lane that really matters. Top lane isn't a good lane for you. Mid lane is obviously going to be the juicy lane because it strengthens all aspects of your comp. Or all strengths of your comp are able to show themselves in mid lane push. And all that you really have to do now is hold TiP inside of this lane until like Rift Herald comes up, and you can just basically use it to bleed out resources from TiP, because it's not like you're facing any sort of scaling other than Gangplank. You can argue that Nocturne scales, but I don't think that his scaling is really relevant right now given how far behind he is. You just bust this open, and now if you're CLG, what you want to do is you just want to steal their entire jungle. You want to set Nocturne even further behind, and you want to force them to allocate gold only into one party, because they can't send someone to bottom, so they have to choose to send one person to top lane. So if they send someone to top lane, that's the only person that's going to end up getting resources for the next like minute and a half. And then Herald, I don't know if Herald's going to come up before Baron, but if you could get Herald into Baron, that'd be so nice for gold. That'd be so big. I like how Freak just mentioned this being a gold lead that you would normally surrender in solo queue. Too bad we can't for another 2 minutes. Thanks, Riot. Mid-open, please. Oh, man. Alright, now see, this is where they're starting to do stuff that TSM did. This is a big no-no. Now see, bottom at Glaciered. which means that bottom is fucked for TiP. So now, because it's going to Glacier and you still have teleport up on Poppy, what you want to do is you want to play vision control around their red side jungle. You want to get Herald, okay? You do not want to push beyond the tier 2 turret other than to just lightly shove the wave into TiP's tier 3 turret and then back up, because that's just how we saw TSM lose the game. And then from there, you just want to stall out Baron. You want to keep just getting stronger and stronger. And you want to basically tell TiP that they only have one lane that they can actually make use of. And that's going to be top lane. Because they don't have a mid lane and they don't have a bottom lane. There's no dragon coming up. And the only neutral objective that realistically they can even hope to contest is going to be Baron or your mid turret. Both of which are, you know, in the same area. So it's very easy for CLG to just take a very straight runway shot fight. And if they win, they can just bullet up mid lane. So they're doing right now what TSM didn't. And even though the comps are slightly different, I think I think it's even more of a fact to point out that even though CLG's comp is better at doing what TSM was trying to do, this is it. Okay. That's pretty much it. So they're continuously just executing a slow and steady engine, and it's a very methodical way to strangle TiP out. Even though TiP has some scaling, the scalings are basically irrelevant at this point. Gangplank is way too far behind to actually do anything. He doesn't have the damage. He doesn't have the numbers. There's no Soraka, you know, ace in the sleeve. Okay, and Lissandra certainly does not have as much utility and you know, crisis control as Twisted Fate does in this position, in the case that, you know, TiP is in, or in the situation that TiP is in. In this case, I feel like the game is just over. Slow and steady wins the race. They're even initiating a 1-3-1, which is something that their team is actually bad at doing, but they're so far ahead that it ends up being a relatively correct choice, because Alistar can't just bounce in, and neither can Nocturne. And okay, I don't understand that, but I guess Pyrian ended up having to use his ultimate. So this is going to be the end game scenario. This is just a complete stranglehold. They don't even need to take this. LeBlanc easily could have just taken the tower. Like, they could have basically baited TiP to keep going in on him, and even if they lose the fight in terms of numbers, I'm pretty sure LeBlanc ends up getting a Nexus tower. And if that happens, it's basically game over anyway. Because they could get aced, and TiP could have 3 members remaining, and there's not enough to capitalize on. There's not enough on the map to capitalize on for TiP. And they end up taking down LeBlanc, but I don't think that it matters because the Nexus tower already went down, and it's 7v5 now. Because when all 3 inhibitors are down, you should just view it as 7v5. And that's it. Now they should just be able to get the base. Okay, but TiP making their last stand. And Gate is going to go down too, and now that's going to be the game. They're just going to kill the Nexus. Okay, I have to go eat, so I don't know if I'm going to do Echo Fox versus Team Liquid. I'll do a straw poll in chat to see if people actually want to watch that game. I just don't know how good of a game it's going to be. And it is the last game of the day, I believe, right? TiP, let me just check on LOL. All right, let me stop recording. That was good. That was well played by CLG, and they had a lot of patience, so it's good. They deserve that win.